With the 35th pick in the NFL Draft, the Falcons traded up with the Arizona Cardinals, giving up one of their 2 third-round selections to select Clemson defensive tackle Ruke Orhorhoro. So we're going to get you guys familiar with the newest member of Atlanta's defensive line, tell you everything there is to know about him, and then I'll give you my analysis and reaction to the pick. But here's our scouting report on the Clemson big fella. First off, really good size, 6'4", 294 pounds. He kind of played all over Clemson's defensive line. Started 3 years there, primarily a 3 technique for them, but you can also see him maybe bumping a little bit inside or outside depending on what the down and distance is. Last year for the Tigers, 25 tackles, 5 sacks, 1 pass breakup, and 26 pressures. So he has an ability to get after the quarterback, and the Falcons desperately needed pass rushing help, and the hope is Ruke can generate some pressure from the interior of that defensive line. Now, I've got more to share with you guys on Ruke, but first, grade the pick for me. A, B, C, D, or F. I'm going to wait to give you my draft grades at the very end of day 2, but get in the comment section right now, drop a letter grade for me and how you feel about this selection for Atlanta. For me, I think it's a very fine position to go after. Defensive line needed some help. Grady Jarrett's 30 years old. He's coming off a torn ACL. I would have preferred Johnny Newton. Felt like there was much higher pass rush upside to him. A little bit puzzled as to how he continues to fall in round 2 of the draft. But Atlanta really liked this guy. They made a trade last year to move up to get Matthew Peterson. I felt like this was a little bit of an overpay. They jumped up 8 spots, gave up the second of their third-round picks, but they also picked up a 6th-rounder from the Arizona Cardinals. So Ruke Orhorhoro comes over to the Falcons. He's been a longtime player for the Clemson Tigers, 3-year starter, like I mentioned. The notes I have on him when it comes to some of his best attributes and qualities, super athletic and long arms. And I know that's really nerdy, but when you get into day 2 of the draft, you're not going to always find the best production. So you're looking for guys that have physical traits that with the right coaching can be untapped. So Ruke, definitely one of the better athletes for his position. When he's pushing 300 pounds, he ran a 4.89 40-yard dash. Now, you don't ask your defensive tackles to run 40 yards in a straight sprint, but it does give you a good indication of he's got a good first step to his game. He's got some good quickness. You know who also had that coming out of college? Grady Jarrett. Grady Jarrett was not some overweight defensive tackle. He was a lean, mean, fighting machine. And I think Atlanta sees a lot of those similar traits in Ruke, and they ultimately decided we have to go get help for our defensive line. The defensive tackles in this draft class, I think, are a little bit deeper than the pass rushers, which, crazy thought, maybe you should have gone pass rusher in round 1, but we've spent way too much time talking about that. Let's give Ruke some of his own credence here. Now, before we get on to the rest of my breakdown, I do want to shout out our sponsor, Prize Picks, for a quick moment. Today's show is made possible thanks to our friends over at Prize Picks. Now, what is Prize Picks? It is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. The easiest and most exciting way to play DFS because it's just you against the numbers. All you have to do is pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Testing my skills on Prize Picks this season is the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $1,000 with just a few taps. They also have a wide variety of stat projections, including for the NFL Draft, season-long projections for their stats like Caleb Williams, J.J. McCarthy, Malik Neighbors. So if you like my selections, feel free to ride with me by downloading the Prize Picks app and using code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Once again, download the Prize Picks app and use that code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. I put all that information in the comments and description of today's video. Shout out to Prize Picks for supporting us here at Chat Sports. Make sure you get started today. Prize Picks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. And what do you know? Right after the Falcons took Ruke at pick 35, Dan Quinn led Washington Commanders at pick 36. They took Jerzon Johnny Newton. So we'll have a pretty good idea in a few years which team made the right selection. Atlanta ultimately going with the Clemson defensive tackle. Now, here's what the Athletics' Dane Brugler had to say on Orhorhoro. Orhorhoro's underdeveloped pass rush instincts and finishing skills cloud his next-level projection, but he displays intriguing movement skills and force at contact to continue getting better and better. Now, when you look at Atlanta's defensive line, I don't think Ruke's going to be a week one starter, but I think he can be a solid rotational piece with Onyemata, Grady Jarrett, Kentavia Street, James Smith-Williams, and Zach Harrison. Atlanta still has some question marks when it comes to getting after the quarterback, and I really don't believe that getting Ruke is going to satisfy those questions, but there are more picks to be had in this draft, and there's more work for Terry Fontenot and Raheem Morris to do. But ultimately, the Falcons made a decision when it came to which defensive tackle do they want, the Illinois DT or the Clemson DT. My personal preference was Jerzon Newton. Ultimately, time will tell which one made the right pick. Now, quick reminder to go ahead and subscribe here to Falcons Today. We're going to keep you guys in the loop for all draft picks throughout the entirety of the 2024 NFL Draft. So if you are looking for a one-stop shop for every single pick made by Atlanta, hit the sub button down below. Now, our very own draft expert, Tom Downey, had him ranked as his number 4 DT with an overall ranking of 55. But it is worth noting that when you get to day 2 of the NFL Draft, everyone's big boards across the league are wildly different. So for me, I don't look at that 55 and get too hung up on it. Now, it was a decent trade, a third-round pick going over to the Arizona Cardinals. So that means the Falcons only have one third-rounder, pick 74, which we'll break down for you when we get to that stage of the draft. But Ruke Orhorhoro comes over to the Falcons. Excited about this pick because it does come at a position of need. I do feel like the Falcons' defensive line is on the older side with Onyemata and Jarrett being on the wrong side of 30. Last year was Calais Campbell. Like, they need a little bit of youth injected into this defensive line. I question the selection, but I don't mind the position they targeted. Now, who do you want to see the Falcons draft next? I could see them going cornerback, maybe Jonah Ellis, edge rusher out of Utah, the younger brother of Caden Ellis, when they're back on the clock at 74. But let me know who you want to see the Falcons draft next down below. And for one last time, Ruke Orhorhoro is the pick for Atlanta at 35 after a trade up with the Cardinals. The Spark Notes on him is sub 300 pounds, so don't look at him as a tree stump. No, he's going to have some pass rush upside to his game. He's got really good quickness, good speed, good length. I think there's just some polishing that needs to be done. And when you've got a defensive-minded coach like Raheem Morris, that's sort of what you're paying him to do when you go out and get defensive players in the early stages of the draft. So Ruke comes over to Atlanta. Definitely a better pick than the first one they made. They went Michael Penix at number 8 overall, which I've already kind of given my piece on that on previous videos, so I'm not going to just be a broken record for you all here. But reminder to subscribe to the channel as we give you guys pick-by-pick analysis for the entirety of the 2024 NFL Draft.